Trixie's Forest Retreat. By Crow's Crow. Chapter 58. Rainstorm. Grey clouds hung over all of Ponyville. The Pegasi were hard at work, completely blotting out the sky. The occasional strong gust of wind that bellowed through the streets gave small previews of what was to come later that day. "Trixie does not understand," Trixie said to Fluttershy while they trotted along the trees closest to Fluttershy's home, seeking out loose or weak branches. "No pony will be out during the storm, so why pull down the branches?" Because they might fall on some pony if we don't," Fluttershy answered, her gaze alternating between Trixie and the trees. For a whole week Trixie had been confined to her bed again, a safety precaution after Trixie foolishly admitted she got tired quickly. Trixie had not been allowed to help out at all. Instead, Rainbow Dash would come around to help Fluttershy take care of the chores more quickly. With the chores taken care of, the three of them would spend the day together in various ways. Sometimes it involved arguing with Rainbow Dash, or watching her practice, show off, and brag. Other times Fluttershy would arrange for something peaceful, like a minor excursion into the edge of the forest to see brand new animal parents and their offspring. Fluttershy checked on them to see if everything was all right apparently, and made small talk with the animals. Those had been some of Trixie's favorite trips, once she had been reassured it was just a regular forest, though it was adjacent to the ever-free forest. The first time they had visited a family of bunnies, the second time badgers, the third time deer. The little creatures were just so endearing that it was easy to see why Fluttershy was so fond of her job. After a gentle introduction, Rainbow Dash and Trixie had been brought in to see the animals up close. Though Trixie had a lot of fun during those trips, she was a bit nervous about the next trip. Rainbow Dash's complaints about boring animals had been met by Fluttershy with the promise of seeing wolves the next time. "But no pony will be out here. The branches are going to fall anyway. This is useless work," Trixie groaned while she rolled her eyes. It was so annoying. Trixie had not been allowed to help with anything until the weekend, and when it finally arrived the main chore on the agenda was some completely pointless bussy walk. Somehow the whole town was in on the joke and Trixie just did not get it. Fluttershy came to a stop, then looked back at Trixie. "Oh, if you want, you can go back inside, Trixie. It's okay. I don't mind." Trixie shook her head. "No, Trixie will help you. It is just she thinks you are better helped by realizing you don't have to do any of this. Because every pony would be inside?" "Right. What if some pony is not inside? Maybe there could be an emergency, or a traveler." Fluttershy continued along the trees, then pointed up at a cracked branch. Over there." She spread her wings and flew up to tie a rope around the branch. While Fluttershy was occupied, Trixie stared up at the ever-dimming sky. She knew that somewhere up there Rainbow Dash was hard at work as well. She had often joked that Rainbow Dash had no real job, but seeing so many Pegasi fly to and fro, arranging the massive storm, was impressive. Trixie could not make out who was who, but she thought she caught the occasional rainbow-colored glimpse. "Well, Trixie supposes that in that rare case, maybe it is not a bad idea," she begrudgingly admitted, then grabbed hold of the rope that dangled from the tree branch. It did not take much effort to pull the loose branch down, just the weight or the rope itself nearly did the job for Trixie. To the sound of dry snapping and rustling leaves, the branch tumbled down. Fluttershy untied the rope, then led the way to the next tree. "Oh, that's right. Trixie, Rainbow Dash will be staying with us tonight." Trixie's ears perked up. "She will? Why is that? Is she so tired out from doing actual work, that she doesn't want to cook?" She laughed, but caught sight of Fluttershy giving her a hurt look that quickly made her change her tune. Trixie means, why is she staying?" She said the storm was going to be pretty bad, and that her cloud home was not made to withstand heavy winds. Fluttershy smiled and shook her head. "I think she forgets sometimes that I helped her study for her weather exams. Rainbow's home is fine, and she knows it. She's just worried about us." Oh, maybe she's making up for lost boasting time. Trixie had not actually seen Rainbow Dash yet today. Usually she showed up fairly quickly, but with the preparation for the storm she'd been too busy to visit. Though Trixie would not say it, she missed the annoying, cute Pegasus already. Fluttershy giggled. Well, hopefully you will be a good influence on her, Trixie. She spread her wings and flew up to another tree branch with the rope, repeating the process. Trixie raised a brow, staring at Fluttershy for a moment, who just smiled back innocently. Subtle, okay, here goes. It took a bit more effort, but another branch gave way under Trixie's might. Very good, Trixie. Are you feeling tired at all? No, not tired, but Trixie is growing bored of this task. Oh, I'm sorry. We can stop here, I think. Would you like to go back home? Trixie nodded. It was only a short trip back to Fluttershy's cottage, and they even had the good fortune to have the wind at their backs on the return trip. Above them, the skies rumbled while the last few clouds were placed. Almost seconds after entering the house, the rain began. Gently at first, but soon it came down hard. The first cracks of thunder followed soon after. Fluttershy stoked the fireplace up to a nice roaring flame while Trixie carried over the kettle. Oh, thank you, Trixie. Fluttershy placed the kettle over the fire and fanned the flames with her wings. Trixie looked out the window. It was so dark outside she could have easily mistaken the day for the night. A lightning strike streaked across the sky. She trotted up closer to the window, scanning the air for any sign of Rainbow Dash. Even from inside, the wind-swept heavy rain and darkness made it hard to see anything. She did not like the idea of Rainbow Dash flying through all that in the slightest. She should be done right. Where the hey is she? Trixie is bored of waiting. A warm feeling spread over Trixie's back. Fluttershy's wing rested on top of her. She too stared out the window. I know, Trixie. I'm bored too. The fire crackled behind them as they watched the storm rage outside. The lightning strikes got more frequent and Trixie felt as though the cold was trying to come through the glass. She leaned against Fluttershy. Her warmth was comforting. Trixie will never let Rainbow Dash live this down. The fastest flyer in Equestria, late. So she never was particularly punctual. If anything, I'll bet she just stayed behind to do some extra work and left late. She was diligent like that for big storms in Cloudsdale too. This is the first one for Ponyville I can remember, so maybe she's the only one with experience. Yes, surely that is why she is late. She has no sense of planning. If she was in charge, it's no wonder the work ran late. Trixie squinted at what looked like a vague dot in the sky, but it was gone as soon as she tried to get a better look. So, she worked on the weather in Cloudsdale then, did you too? Oh, no. I was studying for, well, this. She motioned around. Rainbow Dash already had a part-time job managing weather before she graduated, so it was a quick transition for her. I know she's flown through worse than this, it won't even slow her down. Fluttershy sounded a bit stronger than usual. Trixie briefly followed the gesture before she looked outside again. Trixie is curious. If she worked for the Cloudsdale weather team, why is she here now? Did something happen? Fluttershy spared a sideways glance at Trixie, then put her a little closer under her wing. Nothing happened. Rainbow Dash always did great there. I'm sure she'd be captain of the weather team there if she didn't give it up. I cost her the job. You? But... how? Trixie could not believe it. Fluttershy swallowed uncomfortably. Well... I'm not a very good flyer. This one time I actually fell off Cloudsdale, and I couldn't even recover in time before I got to the ground. Trixie gasped in horror, her attention firmly on Fluttershy from that moment. Oh, I'm sorry. I was caught. Don't worry. Nothing bad happened. A lot of good things happened actually, but my point is I was really bad. She smiled weakly at Trixie then looked back out the window. Rainbow Dash, she helped me, but I was still terrible. After I fell to the earth I discovered I really liked it, and wanted to just live down there. Earth ponies and unicorns didn't have wings, so I knew I'd never need to fly again. I wanted to quit flight school. I didn't think I would ever graduate anyway, but she wouldn't let me. She wouldn't let you do what you wanted. Trixie stared at Fluttershy confused. Another strike of lightning made her wonder if the clouds were fighting some kind of war. Trixie blinked. Wait. Fighting? You and Rainbow fought over that, didn't you? She said you two compromised. Fluttershy looked surprised. She told you? Yes. We did fight over it. Rainbow Dash refused to let me give up, and she offered a deal. If I really wanted to live down there, she'd come with me, but only if I could graduate flight school, otherwise she would not even visit me if I moved. Trixie is pretty sure that is not called a deal, but an ultimatum. Shrugging her shoulders, Fluttershy just smiled. If you say so, Trixie. I didn't think it was fair of her to ask the impossible. It felt like a cheap trick to keep me from moving, but I didn't want to lose her, even if we had a fight. So I ended up deciding to stay in flight school for a while. What she didn't tell me at the time was that she would do everything she could to help me. When I showed up to school the next day, I saw Rainbow Dash before she saw me, and she looked so miserable and nervous. Once she saw I came, she was so excited. She supported me at every opportunity, gave me flight tips, pushed me harder, trained with me, and encouraged me. Trixie smiled as she listened to the story. So you passed the exam, didn't you? Flying colors? Fluttershy giggled softly and shook her head. Maybe not flying colors. But I did pass it. It took a while, but when I finally moved to Ponyville, no matter how often I told her she didn't have to, Rainbow Dash came with me. She asked for a transfer to the Ponyville weather team, even though they don't even have a quarter of her usual workload. She said it was perfect because it gave her more time to practice flying. She really came? Just like that? Trixie tore her gaze away from Fluttershy, then tried to make out the shapes in the dark sky again. No wonder she never has any work to do. She only took this job to keep her promise. Nodding, Fluttershy looked out the window as well, a happy smile on her face as she reminisced. Nothing could convince her otherwise. Rainbow Dash just said she'd stay true to her word no matter what. She's just that kind of pony, loyal to a fault. Even though I know she gave up her job. I am really glad that she's here. I don't know what I would do without her by my side. It was so dark outside now that the majority of the window was taken up by the reflection of Trixie and Fluttershy. Anything going on outside was only visible during the brief flashes of lightning. Trixie stared at the reflection of Fluttershy while she told the story. All of her anxiety had cleared up. Although it was unclear to Trixie what exactly had possessed Rainbow Dash to go that far. Was it really that important to her that Fluttershy would learn how to fly properly? They both seemed very happy with the final outcome. A content look played on Fluttershy's face. At the time, I was really upset with her, but now I'm grateful. Even if I'm still a weak flyer, I can actually fly now, and it has allowed me to do so many more things even here on the ground. Me and Rainbow Dash can go on actual flights. And it even helped me save a good friend of mine once. I'll learn to fly, and that I can always count on her. Well. There's nothing to be bored about then, is there? If Rainbow Dash said she'd be here, she'll be here. Trixie turned her back on the window. It's drafty over there. Come on, let's have something nice and hot ready for her when she gets here. Fluttershy looked over her shoulder at Trixie, giving a nod in response. You're right. Oh, how about you go up to the bedroom? The chest at the hoof end of the bed has an extra blanket. Could you bring that down? Fluttershy turned her attention on the boiling kettle, pulling it out of the fire. Between the two of them, preparations were soon complete. The couch had been pulled up closer to the fireplace, and a small table in front held 3 steaming mugs of hot chocolate. A blanket and 2 towels were thrown over the armrest, and 2 drowsy ponies sat side by side upon the couch, waiting patiently. With another roar of thunder, the door of the cottage swung open, revealing a completely drenched and shivering pile of feathers and fur that must have once been a Pegasus. Rainbow Dash. Chapter 59. Rigid. The wind howled through the small cottage, bringing with it the rain and rumbling from outside until Rainbow Dash kicked the door shut. She was completely drenched and dripping cold water on the wooden floorboards. Looking over the shivering mare, Trixie put on a smirk. "You're late. So much for being the fastest." "Excuse me. I'd like to see you fly through that," Rainbow Dash grumbled, and made her way towards the fireplace. Fluttershy gently nudged Trixie in the ribs, then slipped off the couch, snagging one of the towels. "I'm so glad you made it, Rainbow. The weather is just awful. Are you okay?" With a jolt, Trixie pulled away from Fluttershy's hoof, more so because it was ticklish than painful. "Oh, no fair, Trixie is right." Still, she followed suit and took the remaining towel, carrying it towards Rainbow Dash. "Of course I am, Fluttershy. I'm awesome after all. Thanks though." Rainbow Dash half spread her wings while she stood before the fire, trying to catch some more of its warmth, and looked into the crackling flames. "I'm not late, Trixie. Just hush, I'm tired and not in the M." Rainbow Dash followed her own advice as everything suddenly went dark for her. Fluttershy had thrown her towel over Rainbow Dash's head. "It's okay, Rainbow, you've done enough for one day, don't move. If that's okay with you." Fluttershy pulled the towel down to Rainbow Dash's mane, allowing her to see again. She greeted her with a warm smile while drying her mane. Meanwhile, Trixie stood frozen behind Rainbow's right wing. She had a towel as well, but she had not actually really thought this through. And now that she was there, she was not quite sure how to proceed anymore. It felt like it would be wildly inappropriate to just start rubbing it on Rainbow Dash. But Fluttershy seemed to handle it just fine, though the exertion brought a pink haze to her face. Rainbow Dash did not try to object, giving Fluttershy and Trixie ample opportunity to do whatever they wanted. She took the opportunity to relax and finally catch her breath. That's not a bad idea, Fluttershy. My legs are so stiff I doubt I could reach above my knees right now, thanks." "See, come on, it can't be that hard. I've been closer for less legit reasons than this. But that was a week ago, and I've not had any alone time with her since." It felt different somehow to be using her hooves and muzzle to brush over Rainbow Dash, than merely holding onto her. Trixie could not help but have her mind wander. She could start somewhere safe like Rainbow's back, but then what was she going to do when that was dry? She couldn't really go higher as Fluttershy was there, and going lower she'd end up on Rainbow's rear. Trixie's face burned up at the mere thought. It was a perfect excuse, but she really shouldn't. Trixie glanced over towards Fluttershy, hoping for any help, but she was too busy to notice Trixie's silent plea. Actually asking for help was too embarrassing though, and she couldn't just stand there doing nothing for much longer without looking like a complete idiot. Her eyes traveled along Rainbow's back, trying to make any sort of plan, when she took notice of something that should have been obvious all along. Wings. Perfect. Trixie smiled pleased. She could just take her sweet time drying off both wings, and even if Fluttershy wasn't done by then she could move on to Rainbow's back and still be totally safe. Rainbow's wings were half folded to her sides, so Trixie just draped her towel over the right wing, then set to work. She was not really sure how to handle wings, but it seemed a safe bet that she should avoid stroking too much against the grain. With that in mind she rubbed the towel into the soaked wings, hearing Rainbow Dash give a yawn or something. Bet she wasn't allowed any nap time. Trixie noticed Rainbow Dash give the strongest shiver she had since she came in. For a pony that was normally so warm, to be shivering from the cold was worrisome. I guess it's because she stopped moving. Better hurry this up. Fortunately, Rainbow Dash was making it easy for Trixie as she spread both her wings out. With more easy access, Trixie draped the towel further over the wing, then rubbed through it along the base and covert feathers covering her biceps, reasoning that it was best to start low and work her way up. She paid special attention to follow edge of the muscle groups and get in between the feathers, or pressing on the wing to get rid of the water. Now and then she gave an accidental tug on the feathers, but they were resilient and no worse for wear. It was going perfectly, but then again it was something the great and powerful Trixie was doing, so she was really not that surprised with her progress. She'd made it halfway up the wing when she heard something unexpected. "TT Trixie, what a..." Rainbow Dash moaned out with a ragged breath. This prompted to Fluttershy look up from her task of drying off Rainbow's chest, and look towards Trixie. Her face turned scarlet as she let out a gasp. "Trixie. Stop." Trixie froze completely, looking at Fluttershy shocked, then to Rainbow Dash who was quaking on her hooves. She quickly let go and stepped away. "Sorry. Did Trixie hurt you?" "She didn't mean to. Are you okay?" She looked at Rainbow Dash with genuine worry, her guard knotted up with a terrible feeling of guilt. She'd been messing with those delicate wings. What if she injured them? What if Rainbow Dash wouldn't be able to fly as fast anymore? Tears came to her eyes as she noticed Rainbow Dash was refusing to look at her, staring straight ahead into the flames instead. How do we fix it?" "I'm so sorry." The silence was maddening. Fluttershy exchanged a look with Rainbow Dash, giving a small nod. She finally settled on Trixie again, her face a bright red as she walked around Rainbow Dash. Once Fluttershy was beside Trixie, she looked incredibly uncomfortable while she struggled for words. "You are. No. Rainbow isn't harmed." Breathing a sigh of relief, Trixie fell onto her haunches. She felt a huge weight tumble off her shoulders. It took her a moment to realize though, that Fluttershy was still fidgeting with her hooves, and there was a question left unanswered. She looked over to Rainbow Dash. Her wings had folded again, pressing hard against her sides. "Yeah, you see, actually, that is sometimes when a mare and a... no Fluttershy retreated behind her own mane as she fumbled terribly with her words. "Pegasus wings can be really sensitive." Trixie blinked, confusion and worry battling for control. "But, you just said that Trixie did not hurt Rainbow Dash." She saw Fluttershy give a nod, somewhere in that pink curtain. "That makes no sense. Are you saying Trixie just caused her pain, without harming her?" The other thing," Fluttershy squeaked. "The other thing? What does that Luna?" Trixie's eyes opened wide. She felt as though she'd caught on fire. She looked back towards Rainbow Dash, who had so far made not a single attempt to turn around even a little. Panicking, Trixie rattled off apologies and excuses. "So sorry. Trixie didn't know." "Yeah, you fly with those. How could Trixie know they'd have any more feeling than hooves?" "Why wouldn't you fold your wings if Trixie was doing something like that?" Wings just, kinda do that on their own when..." Fluttershy said so quietly that Trixie only barely caught it. Staring at the ground, Trixie just went quiet. It was clear every pony understood it had just been an accident. By the sound of things she was not in trouble. But she still couldn't believe what a stupid thing she had done. "Oh Luna," aroused Rainbow Dash. She thought panicked, but then froze for a moment as she ran through the notion again, and did her best to suppress a giggle. "Oh Luna," aroused Rainbow Dash. She looked towards Rainbow Dash, feeling her cheeks burning up. Trixie chuckled weakly. "Huh. Well, that was dumb, huh? No hard feelings? Or well, no hard feelings that you didn't enjoy." Trixie got up on her hooves and scraped one along the floor, embarrassed. The whole situation was so awkward she wanted to get past it as quickly as possible. There was little change in either of the two Pegasi. Rainbow Dash remained as if nailed to the ground, and Fluttershy just revealed a single eye to check on both of them. Swallowing, Trixie tried to clear a lump from her throat. It wasn't working. Hey, come on. You can't be mad, can you? She made her way towards Rainbow Dash. She was used to a Rainbow Dash yelling at her, even threatening her, or at worst trying to hurt her, but nothing was as unnerving as the silence. Rainbow Dash? Trixie paused in her old position next to the right wing, though it was tightly folded this time. It confused her. She was sure the normally animated Pegasus could hear her. Reaching at one hoof, she prodded her. Are you mad? Fluttershy trotted up to Rainbow's left side, giving Trixie a reassuring smile before she looked towards Rainbow Dash. Dash? She really didn't know any better. With no replies from Rainbow Dash, or even acknowledgement that she was there, Trixie felt her chest ache. She had to get a response somehow. The uncertainty was so much worse. She leaned against Rainbow Dash gently. The mare's body felt cold from the rain, but she could definitely feel her breathing. Please, say something. When Rainbow Dash did not respond again, Trixie looked over towards Fluttershy. Oddly, Trixie found the mare already staring at her. Fluttershy startled when she noticed Trixie looking back, and shot Trixie an uncertain look. Maybe just give her a minute, Trixie. Fluttershy said, then leaned against Rainbow Dash's left side. Are you okay, Rainbow? Trixie trembled as the seconds ticked by. Had she messed up so badly that Rainbow Dash did not want to be her friend? As scary as Rainbow Dash was when she was mad, Trixie liked it better than this. Did she not even care enough to correct her anymore? Trixie's ears pressed flat into her mane. Get mad already. Please. Don't ignore Trixie. Her voice cracked. Anything was better than being ignored. She wrapped her hooves around Rainbow Dash, bracing to get thrown off immediately, but she did not encounter any resistance. That's right. Rainbow Dash, Trixie uses one of her chances, okay. Trixie noticed Fluttershy give a surprised look, which she had expected. But she was sure Rainbow Dash would know. She could only hope she would make good on her promise to accept them. To Trixie's delight, it actually did have an effect. Rainbow Dash finally moved and actually looked over her shoulder, but Trixie could not make out her face now that she was silhouetted against the crackling flames. Chances? Nodding quickly, Trixie smiled relieved. Yes. Trixie's chances. In the hospital, you gave Trixie 3 chances for what you did to Trixie in the castle. So Trixie uses a chance now. That means you've got to forgive Trixie, and we'll be friends again, right? She looked up pleadingly at Rainbow Dash. Chapter 60. Release. The storm had taken up most of Rainbow Dash's day. It had been an exciting thing to hear that a missed rainy day the last week and prompted the management to order an actual storm. Rainbow Dash had immediately volunteered to lead the preparations, and as no pony else had any interest, she got the position unopposed. It had been a big surprise to discover that almost none of the Pegasi on the Ponyville weather team had made a real storm before, which had delayed the work in the first place, but not as badly as one of the weather ponies, Hail Wing, getting an injury when a gust of wind brought down a weak branch. Rainbow Dash was not sure what she was more angry about, that some pony had neglected to take the branch down, or that Hail Wing had decided to take an unauthorized break below a tree. After Hail Wing was injured, and yelled at, Rainbow Dash had pulled a double shift in an attempt to make everything work. It was annoying, because she was supposed to swing by the Carousel Boutique. The delay made her arrive late, and Rarity was not even there. Which meant she had flown through the storm for absolutely nothing, and still had to get to Fluttershy's while the storm was already in full swing. It was disappointing that she was unable to get Trixie's hat and cloak, but upon arriving she got over that very quickly, as the first thing Trixie did was mock her. Rainbow Dash stood on the doorstep completely drenched and curled to bone, and Trixie simply mocked her. At least Fluttershy had a nice welcome for her. Grumbling annoyed while she made her way to the fire to warm up, she could hear Fluttershy's voice very close by all of a sudden. Suddenly she was blinded by a towel. It's okay, Rainbow. You've done enough for one day. Don't move. If that's okay with you. For a couple of seconds, everything was black for Rainbow Dash. The world hidden away from her by the towel. Before she had time to complain, however, the world came back into view, and the most wonderful sight greeted her, a smiling, and lightly blushing, Fluttershy. Rainbow Dash smiled back approvingly at Fluttershy. As soon as she had done so, Fluttershy set to work on drying off her soaked mane. That's not a bad idea, Fluttershy. My legs are so stiff I doubt I could reach above my knees right now, thanks. It was a complete lie, but no pony else needed to know that. For the past 2 weeks Trixie often had a monopoly on Fluttershy's care and attention, and Rainbow Dash couldn't help but feel more than a little bit envious. While Fluttershy dried Rainbow Dash's mane, the two of them kept eye contact for a lingering few moments. Rainbow Dash could not even feel the storm's cold anymore, or at the very least it seemed completely unimportant while she stared into the magnificent approval-seeking eyes. After a moment they each broke away. Rainbow Dash looked towards the flames, but she could feel her cheeks burning hotter than the fireplace, and stole another glance from the corner of her eye. She watched as Fluttershy redoubled her efforts on drying, with the cutest blush easily shining through her fur. It was much too light-colored to hide the rosy glow. Rainbow Dash had nearly forgotten that Trixie was in the room as well, but she got a reminder when she felt her right wing get weighed down by another towel. At first Rainbow Dash paid no real attention to it, until she felt Trixie start to rub her wings through the towel. The diligent hooves forced an involuntary gasp out of Rainbow Dash. Biting her lip, Rainbow Dash tried not to make another sound, but she was unable to stop a shudder when Trixie's hooves touched a particularly sensitive spot. To make matters worse, it seemed to encourage Trixie, as she worked on the wings faster and harder. Gah, what is she doing? Did she get impatient? Though Fluttershy is right here. Rainbow Dash gave a quick glance down to Fluttershy, and fortunately found her completely focused on drying off the fur on her shoulders and down to her chest. The gentle strokes across her chest did absolutely nothing to help her calm down, however, it only made her feel even better. No pony had tried to do anything like this to her before. Rainbow Dash closed her eyes tightly, fighting hard to keep her wings under control, but she was in a losing battle. Her wings spread out fully. Trixie did not miss a beat and switched her attention to the rest of the wing, now taking advantage of the fact she could more easily reach all those good spots. There was no doubt in Rainbow Dash's mind. Trixie had to be doing this on purpose. For the whole past week Rainbow Dash had avoided being alone with Trixie, always ensuring it was the three of them. Trixie had not tried to make more advances since then, but clearly she was sick of waiting if she was doing this right in plain sight while Fluttershy was just a bit occupied. If she tried to stop Trixie it would alert Fluttershy immediately. The thought alone was already enough to triple her heart rate. Rainbow Dash was not sure how Trixie had figured out what to do exactly to drive her this crazy. The way she dug into her muscles just enough to make her want more before she stopped, then moved just a little bit and repeated the process. Even so, Trixie seemed to be at least a bit inexperienced, as the occasional tug on her feathers sent a small jolt through her wings. It was still more than enough to make her head swim. The longer it went, all the more Rainbow Dash started to think strange thoughts. It may actually be a team effort. As Fluttershy's gentle strokes complemented Trixie's rougher approach, it also explained how Trixie knew to work a wing. With a quickened breath, Rainbow Dash did her best to stay calm, but her every thought was starting to get dominated by the feelings emanating from her wings and chest. She felt as though she was burning up, kept right on the edge between sanity and the rising desire to just give the two teasers what they wanted. Rainbow Dash's whole body quivered as a result of their ministrations. She just could not take it anymore. Day 1. Taking in a ragged unsteady breath, Rainbow Dash tried to speak up. She could not keep the pleasure out of her voice, nor did she even care to anymore, but it was so difficult to make her addled mind form words. Trixie, what a... Trixie. Stop. Stop. What the hey? Trixie immediately stopped everything and by the sound of it even jumped away. Rainbow Dash felt her temper flare. Were they really that cruel? To drive her insane like that, then stop all of a sudden? It felt so unfair. No, get back here you. I'm not Feeny. Trixie spoke up, but to Rainbow Dash's surprise there was no hint of teasing. Instead it sounded more like complete panic. Sorry. Did Trixie hurt you? She didn't mean to. Are you okay? Freezing, Rainbow Dash blinked confused and looked towards Fluttershy, noticing her face was bright red. Meanwhile Trixie continued, sounding increasingly distressed. How do we fix it? I'm so sorry. Why, you can't be serious, this has to be a joke. The disbelief must have been written across her face as she saw Fluttershy staring at her, actual genuine concern and confusion clear as day. She looked back at Fluttershy, then gave the small affirming nod to indicate that she was alright, after which Fluttershy got up and walked around her towards Trixie. Rainbow Dash could hear Fluttershy awkwardly trying to explain to Trixie the effects careless touches could have on a Pegasi wing behind her. In nearly any other situation, she would have laughed at how clueless Trixie sounded during the exchange, and how stilted Fluttershy went about in trying to explain it without having to actually say anything. But now, Rainbow Dash could nearly feel her heart stop as the realization set in, none of it had been intentional. She would have given nearly anything to have the ground swallow her right then. To make her humiliation complete, she still burned with the desire and thoughts of the pair, engraved in her mind after she had conjured them up a few moments prior. With a Herculean effort she managed to fold her wings again, but she had to keep them pressed with all her might to stop them from springing back up again. Oh Celestia, how the hey did I get here? She tried to force her thoughts onto something else, anything else. Anything at all. Hey wing. You stupid mule, how dare you make me work 2 jobs. I even got late to Raritas because of that. And the weather was terrible. All for nothing. Rainbow Dash was vaguely aware that something prodded her side, but she ignored it while she followed her train of thought. It seemed to be working as she felt more anger than need now. I fly all the way through the biggest storm in Ponyville history, that I'm responsible for making. Only to get teased by Trixie, and then teased by them both. Their stupid lovely touching and plotting, it makes me so. Wait, no. Darn it. I'm back here again. A warmth pressed against her right side, and before long, her left was also warmed up. Rainbow Dash snapped out of her thoughts as she tried to make sense of this. By the voices she could tell who were responsible, but it was not clear to her why they were pressing up against her. A part of her tried to tell her they had only been acting to be clueless before and were back to teasing her now. The little voice and the 2 mares against her were quickly destroyed what little self-control she had regained during her distraction. A set of hooves wrapped tightly around her neck, pulling her back down to earth. Once she actually was back to reality she could hear Trixie's urgent bleeding. That's right. Rainbow Dash, Trixie uses one of her chances, okay. Looking over her shoulder, she found Trixie was wrapped around her neck, staring up at her with tears in her eyes and a cautiously hopeful look on her face. Chances? Yes. Trixie's chances. In the hospital, you gave Trixie 3 chances for what you did to Trixie in the castle. So Trixie uses a chance now. That means you've got to forgive Trixie, and we'll be friends again, right? It was somewhat difficult to comprehend what was going on, not aided in the least by how close Trixie was right now, and how badly Rainbow Dash had to fight to keep from getting herself even closer. She looked towards Fluttershy, who was pressed up against her left side and looked less worried than Trixie, but much more embarrassed once they made eye contact. Rainbow Dash found her eyes trail down before she snapped them back up to Fluttershy's eyes. I have to get out of here. She racked her mind for options. She could run out into the storm, the cold rain should help, but then she would just get wet again and risk repeating this whole thing. She looked towards Trixie, catching sight of the increasing fear creeping across her face. Feeling a familiar stab in her gut, Rainbow Dash quickly smiled at her. Fortunately, Trixie had offered up the perfect out. Chances. Hospital. Right. Don't worry, Trixie, everything's fine now. Let go though, this is weird. Fluttershy spoke up. Oh, thank goodness. See, Trixie, she just needed a minute. She gave a warm smile at them both. Fluttershy focused her eyes on Rainbow Dash, blushing as she made her next offer. You Rainbow, how about if I take care of your wings? This prompted another hard-fought squeeze of her wings by Rainbow Dash. No. I mean, no. Thanks, Fluttershy. Actually, I think I could really use a bath. Yes, that's it. A bath. She wormed her way out from between the two as she quickly trotted backwards, catching a very disappointed look on Fluttershy's face that she could not quite account for. You two, I dunno, something. I'll be back soon after I'm warmed up. She waved at the pair. But they each began. No time, too cold, bye. Rainbow Dash spread her wings and flew at top speed along the ceiling and smacked into the bathroom door with a yelp. She groaned, annoyed and embarrassed to discover the door opened in the other direction, but quickly got inside and shut the door. The next couple of minutes was spent mixing and matching with hot and cold water to get the tub to fill up without either freezing or burning her, and dismissively answering any questions that came from the other side of the door. Offers ranging from having her chocolate brought in to helping to wash her back, all of which sounded pretty good, but that was also part of the reason why they were refused. The questions had ceased a while ago. Once the water was good, Rainbow Dash quickly climbed in, resting back in the hot water with a long sigh as she sunk through the foam that floated on top. Her four hooves rested on the wooden edge of the tub. Rainbow Dash gave a long lingering look towards the door, and once she was sure she was not getting bothered again, she'll let her hooves slip into the water as well. Chapter 61. Residue. Resting on the couch, Trixie gave another look towards the bathroom door. She had been in there a number of times the past 2 weeks, but this was the first time she'd seen Rainbow Dash even acknowledge its existence. It had surprised her greatly when Rainbow hid herself in there. It seemed that it was certainly not a normal occurrence, as even Fluttershy had seemed worried about Rainbow Dash's behavior. They had tried to get in and check on Rainbow Dash under the guise of any number of offers, but each was soundly rejected. She tried to be nice, but she really didn't want to see either of us. With a sigh, Trixie looked away from the door and let her eyes rest on Fluttershy. Ever since they had given up on trying to convince Rainbow Dash to come out, or let them come in, Fluttershy had been on the couch, busily preening her wings. It seemed like such an odd thing to be doing to Trixie. As far as she could tell, Fluttershy's wings were already very well kept. Trixie recalled one of her conversations with Fluttershy about the animals in the meadow. At the time she had been told that sometimes birds would preen to calm down when they were feeling stressed. I wonder if the same goes for Pegasus? But then that would mean she is frustrated or something, wouldn't it? Fluttershy? Trixie has a question. Looking up from her wing, Fluttershy blinked. Huh? Oh, sure. What would you like to know, Trixie? It's not about You know, is it? A cute blush shone through on Fluttershy's cheeks. Trixie shook her head. No, or wait. No, at least not right now. For a few moments, Trixie's mind wandered on the possibilities for actually asking about that, but she'd have to spare Fluttershy for now. She gave an uneasy smile as she noticed Fluttershy staring at her with a dreading look. Forget that. Fluttershy, you offered to try Rainbow's wings instead of Trixie. So that means you know how to prevent Trixie's mistake, right? Fluttershy nodded, stretching and folding one of her newly preened wings to illustrate her point. Yes, for the most part. I think. I have a better idea of which parts are sensitive. Could you teach Trixie? Do what? Trixie scooted closer and pointed at Fluttershy's wing. Teach Trixie what spots are sensitive, that way Trixie will know what she shouldn't touch. She smiled with the prospect of learning more about Pegasi, or rather about two Pegasi in particular. I'll think about it. Fluttershy blushed and returned to busily preening her wing for the third time. Her lips stroking flit each feather and arranging them in a perfect pattern, only to repeat doing exactly that again. Time crawled by, but Fluttershy did not seem to return to the topic of her own volition. Though Trixie made good use of her time, carefully observing the methods Fluttershy was employing. She had always been great at learning by example, and this did not seem that hard after she was given repeated demonstrations. Maybe she just is not sure how to go about it. I guess it would just come natural to Pegasi to know what areas are sensitive, and they would not normally have to be taught. You said before preening is relaxing, right, Fluttershy? How about if Trixie takes care of your wings, while you explain it? Fluttershy began while shaking her head, but was interrupted as Trixie continued. Then when Rainbow gets back, we can help her relax. Trixie could see it now, the three of them on the couch with Rainbow Dash in the middle. Each preen one wing properly, without repeating her mistake. Fluttershy hesitated for a moment, but still went with her original answer, shaking her head. I don't think that is a good idea, Trixie. She looked uncomfortable. Oh, come on. Trixie would really like to know for next time. No. What makes you think there will be a next time? Fluttershy said, a little harsher than Trixie had expected. Trixie folded her ears back. But Trixie just made a mistake. So, it would be good to know how to do it properly, right? What I mean is, it's not just about wings being sensitive, Trixie. Fluttershy took a deep breath, and looked a little more resolved afterwards. Touching, and especially preening, another Pegasi's wings is intimate. Oh! Trixie exclaimed, and blushed. Trixie did not realize. But wait. You were offering to dry her wings before. Trixie raised an eyebrow while she stared at Fluttershy, feeling fairly sure there was something she was not telling her. It was possible that Fluttershy had oversimplified her explanation for the sake of keeping it short, but it did not quite feel right to Trixie. Fluttershy colored scarlet. That was different. Rainbow Dash said she couldn't do it herself, remember? It was just to dry her wings. Sure, but isn't it also different if it's just to learn how to do it? Trixie grinned confidently. Hiding herself behind her mane, Fluttershy whispered. Let's say I agree, and I let you practice. Do you really want Rainbow Dash to walk in while you are preening my wings? Trixie felt a brief stab of fear in her chest at the thought. She immediately forced it down, but just the fact that it had been the first place she went to deflated her confidence. She slumped on the couch, laying down with a sigh, and mumbled. No. Never mind. Trixie, you fool. Don't you trust her? I do. But she does not trust me. She will think I'm cheating on her again. Nonsense. She has not gotten mad at Trixie since. We even had plenty of good times. The great and powerful Trixie is brave, not a coward. Being careful is not being a coward. I already screwed up once tonight. I only have 2 chances left. Rainbow Dash did not yell at me, but she left immediately. She's not in a good mood already. I don't want to upset her more. I just want to do something right. She laid her chin down on her hooves and stared into the low crackling flames of the fire. It was not fair. Trixie could think of dozens of things Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy had done for her, but she could not think of a single thing she had tried to do for them that actually worked the way she planned it to. All Trixie does is depend on them, but she has not given anything back. Why do they even bother keeping Trixie around? Is it just because it's their fault Trixie is hurt? Only because they pity Trixie? This train of thought was doing her mood no favors at all, Instead she felt a stinging feeling in her chest while she considered the possibility. While Trixie was contemplating the chance she was fooling herself, she remembered having a similar conversation once before. Applejack's voice echoed through her head. That has got to be the dumbest thing I have ever heard. I got half a mind to put you over Manny for thinking of Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy like that. Trixie perked up, blinking as though she had just awoken a few seconds ago. Trixie should visit that little hayseed again sometime. She smirked and looked towards the 3 mugs that stood near the fire. The sweet scent of hot cocoa was alluring. Looking back over to Fluttershy, Trixie noticed she seemed to have calmed down, as she was no longer preening her wings. Fluttershy held a smile while she rested her head on the armrest of the couch. Oh, good. Fluttershy is not upset with Trixie for pestering her. A loud slam behind them nearly made Trixie jump through the roof and, landing on all fours, she spun around. Rainbow Dash was standing in the door opening of the bathroom. Some steam clouds rolled out with her to the ceiling. Trixie could see Rainbow Dash was already perfectly dry. Towels were haphazardly discarded behind her on the bathroom floor, but other than that it was left in proper state. Rainbow Dash smiled widely as she trotted into the room and took in a deep breath. Ah, fresh air. Well, kind of anyway, huh? Cool air I guess. She spread her wings and flew over onto the couch, settling on the empty spot between Trixie and Fluttershy. She rested her hind hooves on the little table by the fire. So what did I miss? Oh yeah. Chocolate. Still got some. Trixie blinked. Rainbow Dash did not seem upset at all. Instead she was more cheerful than she had ever seen her. There was some kind of glow about her. It took Trixie a moment to recover before she pointed to the door with a smirk. What is it with you and doors? Can't you ever open one normally? Hey, I usually try to take the window, but that didn't work. Fluttershy's bathroom has really small windows. Oh, right. Trixie is sure it has nothing to do with that you did not want to get wet again. She motioned towards the rain clattering against the window, but she could not keep her smile from spreading. Everything's okay. It's really okay. Fluttershy smiled brightly, reached for the mugs on the small table to divide the hot chocolate between them. Of course, Rainbow, we weren't going to start without you. Trixie smiled widely while Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy chatted. She could not be happier with how it turned out. She stared at Rainbow Dash, admiring her newfound energy. Grinning, a deep blush spread over Trixie's cheeks. Trixie held her mug in her hooves. It was still pleasantly warm due to the proximity of the table to the fire. She took a sip and licked her lips. This is great, Fluttershy. Thank you, Trixie, but you deserve a bit of credit, you know. You did help make it. Fluttershy smiled warmly at her. Meanwhile, Rainbow Dash had been chugging the chocolate and finally let the mug sink back into her lap while she breathed a satisfied sigh. Ah, that was awesome. Good job you two then, huh? She set the mug back onto the table, then stretched. Following Rainbow Dash's example, Trixie chugged a good few gulps of her chocolate as well. It was a wonderful feeling to have her insides warm up all at once. The sweet taste lingered in her mouth long after the last swallow, much to Trixie's delight. Oh, would you like some of mine, Rainbow Dash? Fluttershy offered, holding out the mug. I'm not very thirsty, I don't think I could finish the whole thing. Really? Thanks, Fluttershy. Rainbow Dash slipped a hoof around Fluttershy, hugging her while she hooked her free hoof through the handle. She brought the mug up to her lips to drink a few gulps, then returned the mug to Fluttershy. Trixie noticed Fluttershy blushing while Rainbow Dash drank, then stared down at the mug before she took a sip herself again. The normally creamy mare's cheeks seemed to be on fire as she did so. Though Trixie could think of a number of reasons why she might be, she settled on it just being the warmth of the drink. Watching the exchange, Trixie contemplated offering her own chocolate as well. Rainbow Dash would like it, and maybe she'll hug Trixie too. Trixie smiled at the idea of earning a bit of favor with Rainbow Dash, by doing something good for her. She froze when she realized something else though. Rainbow Dash would give the mug back. Then, if Trixie drinks after that, it's kind of an indirect kiss, isn't it? Blushing, Trixie looked down at her half-empty mug, feeling giddy with excitement. She sat up and scooted a little closer while she held out the mug. Rainbow Dash, Trixie has had enough too, would you like hers? To her delight, she saw Rainbow Dash's eyes glisten at the offer. Oh man, must be my lucky night, huh? What's with you two not drinking as much? I'll bet it 'cause you've had no work all day. She laughed but then gave Trixie a smile. Seriously though, thanks, Trixie. She slipped one hoof through the handle, and used the other to give Trixie a hug as well while she raised the mug. Trixie nearly melted in the embrace, and snuggled up against Rainbow Dash for the brief moment it lasted. Trixie took in the sweet scent of honey emanating from Rainbow Dash's fur, then blinked. Wait, honey. That can't be right. She glanced up quickly at Rainbow Dash, who was still drinking, then nuzzled against her and found she really did smell like honey instead of her usual scent of rain. What the hey? Distracted, Trixie startled when Rainbow Dash suddenly leaned away from her to set the mug on the table. Trixie looked on puzzled, then reluctantly let go of Rainbow Dash to claim her prize. Blushing heavily, she could feel her heart thump in her chest while she reached out to grab the mug. It felt light, much lighter than it should. Trixie's heart sank when she looked inside the mug and confirmed her fear. It was empty. It's gone? She stared down into the empty mug, hoping maybe there were still a few drops she could make do with. Glaring at Rainbow Dash, she set the mug back down. Why did you drink all of it? Rainbow Dash looked back at Trixie in confusion. What? Because you said you had enough. So I drank the rest. You did ask me if I wanted yours. She smiled at Trixie uncomprehendingly while Trixie's face fell. But, that's... Trixie didn't mean... She trailed off and shook her head while she slumped back on the couch. She wanted nothing more than to kick herself for being so stupid. One little mistake and she ruined her whole plan. Now she didn't have anything, no chocolate, no indirect kiss, no warmth. Why does it always backfire? It's not fair. Trixie can't even blame anybody else this time. She just said it wrong. That's even worse. It's not all bad. Trixie found out Rainbow Dash smells weird today. Well, that's Trixie. Fluttershy's voice pulled Trixie out of her thoughts. She looked towards Fluttershy who held out her own mug out, keeping a caring smile on her lips. Would you like the last of mine? Trixie's ears perked up, her eyes meeting with Fluttershy's, then looked down at the mug and blushed. She quickly nodded and took the mug with both hooves. Thank you, Fluttershy. Smiling while she looked down, swirling around the bottom of chocolate in the mug. Though Fluttershy, and Rainbow Dash. Reveling in the idea for just a little longer, Trixie finally brought the mug to her lips and sipped the last bit of chocolate slowly. Even if the chocolate was almost cold, it warmed her up far more than when it had been hot. Meanwhile, Rainbow Dash continued with undiminishable enthusiasm. All right, that was good. Now, who here would like to hear a good ghost story? She coughed to clear her throat, then continued in a sinister voice. It all happened on a stormy night. Just like this one. This is the harrowing tale of the screeching mare. Curse you, Rainbow Dash.